Hey, what's up with you?
Not much. I'm kind of hungry.
You're hungry?
Yeah. I ate too much though. Why are we always talking about food?
I don't know, because we're always recording this podcast at night when I feel like we're at our most ravenous.
Yes.
I mean, I am looking forward to talking more about Stranger Things with you.
Yes, me too.
And then also getting some food.
Yes.
Post.
And maybe
that.
like watching
more Stranger Things.
We only watched the first 4 episodes.
We did. We only watched the first 4 episodes. In this episode, we'll be covering episodes 3 and 4.
Yes.
And we deliberately kept ourselves pure.
Oh my gosh.
You don't like that word? You didn't like that?
I didn't like that. Purity sucks. Just kidding.
Fuck purity. So, have you been watching anything lately? Anything cool? You just had a birthday. I mean, by the time this comes out, it'll have been your birthday a month ago. But at the time we're recording this,
yes, my
we
birthday
recently went out for your birthday.
July 5th.
And this is coming out on the 30th. So the happy anniversary of your birthday.
Thank you.
How has this year been so far?
It's been so great.
So we did. We had went out for your birthday.
Yes.
We got a little Indian at the Chai Pani.
Yes, I love that place.
I do too. God, let's just talk in unison for the whole episode. I think that would be something people would enjoy.
Yes,
it'll be like a new take on podcasts. It's like the synchronized swimming of podcasting.
Oh my gosh, the synchronized improvisation. Mm-hmm. That sounds terrifying.
There's actually an improv game where you try to speak at the same time.
Isn't that
very
what
funny.
Fred Armisen and someone tried to do on SNL with songs? Kristen Wiig and Fred Armisen tried to improvise songs during Weekend Update.
Oh, I think I have. Yes, I think that is a take on that game.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it's called. I'm sure somebody out there who does improv is screaming at me right now, but there's a name for it.
But yeah, after we had food, we went to see a live sketch show at the Village Theater.
We did. We went to see Salty Bee's Raunchy Feminist Extravaganza.
So good.
And it did not disappoint. It
Raunchy
was all of
fuck.
those things. It was all
Feminist,
of those things. It was
and
feminist.
It was an extravaganza.
It was an extravaganza. It was really great. It reminded me, it made me miss, because we used to do live comedy shows.
Yeah.
We haven't done it. We've been focusing a little bit more on film and video content lately. But I really did miss that. I loved what they did. It was like they had these cute, I don't want to say cute, that seems like really patronizing, but they had these videos that went in between the sketches, which I thought was interesting because usually you play music in between the sketches while everybody goes backstage and but they had video shorts in between, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a 2-women show. So Sarah Breeze and Courtney Overcash. Mm-hmm. And they wrote the whole thing and they starred in the whole thing. And it was really funny.
Very smart writing. And they both had great voices and great characters and really they were performers. They were just very...
They went all the way.
All out.
And they... I have to say, one of the most amazing things they did that night to me was the sketch that was the rap battle between Hillary Clinton and Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah.
I was damn. I was so impressed with the writing of that. And it was raw and raunchy and really to the point.
Yeah.
And really had an amazing message at the end of instead of being powerful women fighting with each other, let's unite together and fight the common enemy that we have.
And they both did great impressions of the characters too.
They did, yeah.
I still hear this one in my head sometimes, the really raunchy one where the woman reads.
Oh my God, Lois writes this. I don't want to spoil this for anyone if you're out there and you're going to watch this because it's still playing. You can still go see it.
Okay.
But there is a sketch where Lois writes this, who, if you're a Georgia person, is a old lady, an old woman who is like a personality on NPR. I'm not sure if you can hear her in other states, but she does a show called City Lights, and she's like, oh, a very old woman who's welcome to City Lights. And like it was a sketch about her basically reading like this pornographic story she'd written. And
It was very pornographic.
it was yes, it was
like,
shockingly pornographic and one of the goddamn funniest things I've ever heard.
Yes, it was so funny. And the last
I'll never be able to listen
yeah.
to Lois writes this the same way again. Like every time she's like, this is City Lights, I'm gonna expect her.
But
to
like
be,
I keep hearing the last line like in my
Oh
head
my
sometimes
God.
at like weird moments.
that's really funny. So yeah, I loved Salty Bees. It made me feel very inspired.
Oh yeah,
To-
the way it ended was just so. I loved
Yeah, and I
it.
don't want to
Yeah,
I don't want to
know,
spoil,
I
but the
know.
ending was really great. It was fun. It was powerful. It
Very
was
meant a lot.
empowering.
Yeah.
And still funny. Like
Yeah.
you were like, oh wow, this is really fucking empowering. And then there's like they still got some jokes in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And I recommend the show to anybody.
Yeah.
It's still playing through August. So Salty Bees Raunchy Feminist Extravaganza. It's only $10, you guys.
Yeah.
At the Village Theater. And I think you have some information. Do you have what's the website for Village Theater? Because you can actually go and buy tickets. I mean, you can Google the Village Theater, but you can also just buy a fucking tickets.
So it looks like they use Fresh Ticks.
Yes, but there's a Village Theater website.
Okay.
We never look anything up beforehand. Poor Sarah. It's like I'm always like, Steven! Steven!
Sarah.
What is that website?
Villagecomedy.com.
Yeah, so
If
go
you just
there.
Look at
Yeah.
shows.
Yeah. Scroll through and whatnot. Salty Bees, bees as in bumblebees. BEE.
And it goes right back around to bees.
It really does. It does. Go see it. It's running now, running through August. It's a raunchy, good time. Bring your gal pals, bring your
guy
boy
pals.
toys, bring all the
There were so many dudes in the
genders,
audience who were laughing
fluid friends
so
that you and whoever.
hard. They
Yes.
loved it.
Yes. Thunder Cunt. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh,
Thunder
that's
Cunt.
all we're gonna say.
All hail Thunder Cunt.
Yes.
So yeah. Anything else you're watching? You got anything else you've been watching?
Oh my
Watchy
gosh.
watchy? Over the
my
4th of
gosh.
July holiday?
Oh my gosh, what have I been watching? Oh, Big Little Lies.
Oh, I never watched season 1. I know.
I will watch it with you if you want.
Okay.
And if you don't want to wait for me, then you
Okay.
can see it on your own. But,
So how's season 2 going?
it's so good. And I
Yeah.
was worried because the first season is based on a book.
Yeah. Much
Season-
like
True Detective.
True Detective or is I was thinking of
Handmaid's
Handmaid's Tale.
Tale.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was like, there's no way they can there's not
Not going to be
book
put together.
Like,
I mean, when has there ever been a series, a beloved HBO series, where they ran out of the books and the storytelling just wasn't as good? I'm
All of
looking at
them.
you, Game of Thrones.
yeah, no, but
Still
so-
bitter about that ending. Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. Please go.
So the author of the book co-wrote this
Well, there you fucking
season.
go.
And
There
it
you
is
fucking
a
go.
very. The story is just as good, if not better than the first season. It just
Oh.
builds on the first season and
Wow.
in a really it's just so fucking good. And we've watched the first 5 episodes because there's only 5 available right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just dying to see where it goes. You need to watch the show.
Okay.
It's a very it's like an almost all female cast, and it's written by a woman. It's
I need to watch this.
it's so good.
And they added Meryl Streep to the cast,
yes,
right?
She's a great addition.
Well, I mean, she's a great addition to anything.
Yeah, no, but definitely, it's very it's a great show.
Okay. Well, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. How are you?
I saw Toy Story 4.
Okay.
I did not like it.
Okay.
Spoilers for Toy Story 4. Just throwing that out there right away. Well, it's not that I didn't like it. I enjoyed it. It was fine. It was fine.
The face she's making
It
right
was
now
fine.
doesn't look fine to me.
No, it was fine. There's a lot of good stuff about it. Look, I didn't grow up with Toy Story. I was too old when it came out. I was already in college and kind of beyond that shit. But my kids have all taken their turn of being obsessed. Currently, it's my 4-year-old Elliot who is obsessed with Toy Story and watches it constantly. Those movies are beautiful, well written. They tug at the heartstrings. I have probably seen them hundreds of times. It doesn't matter how many times I see that scene in the trash compactor in Toy Story 3. I cry every single time. When Andy gives away the toys to Bonnie at the end of the movie, I cry every time. I cannot stop myself. It's beautiful. It's a beautifully written movie. I feel like Toy Story 4 suffers from some creative direction changes. You can tell it's inconsistent. So based on my understanding, John Lasseter, who was kind of the mastermind behind the first 3 movies, he had to resign from Pixar.
Another problematic genius.
Yes. I feel like we should stop calling them geniuses.
Sorry.
No, it's okay, but that's what they call it. He's talented, but he had some years of misconduct that finally caught up with him, and so he was ejected. And so he, I believe, was involved with that project and then left. Rashida Jones came on with her writing partner to write Toy Story 4. She left the project because she felt like it was not a good work environment and that her ideas were not being heard and respected. And she was like, you know what? Go fuck yourselves. And she left. There are like 6 writing credits on this movie, and it shows. I could go into excruciating detail about all the things that I didn't like about it. Mostly the toys that we know and love, only really Woody and Buzz are in it, and everybody else are kind of side characters, and I feel like I'm sad. Like, I like the new characters. I liked Bo Peep. I liked her being this like rogue toy. I liked the addition of Key and Peele. I like Kadook Kaboom. Like, I like these new characters, but Toy Story has always been really good at bringing in new characters and integrating them into the landscape that's already been there. And this movie did not do a good job with that. And also, they had a lot of threads, and they didn't always go anywhere. And the way that the plot kind of resolved itself was not very well crafted, I felt like. But my biggest problem, and again, spoilers. My biggest problem is that, and I'm going to spoil the ending of the movie for you right now. Is that okay?
Go ahead. Yeah.
At the end of the movie, so Woody has been wrestling this whole time with the fact that he never really got over Andy, and like Bonnie doesn't like him, doesn't pick him as her favorite, and like so in the end he decides to go off with Bo Peep and leave the rest of his friends behind, and they all seem like okay with this. Everybody's like, "We're gonna miss you, Woody," and it's like, I'm sorry, what? This move, first of all, the series has always been about Andy, about Woody coming to terms with the fact that like it doesn't matter how much you're played with, you have to be there for your child. Like, it's fine if you're not the favorite, that's fine. But more importantly, the story has always been about sticking together with your friends. Like, I've got my friends, you've got a friend in me. These are my pals, and we're a family. And no matter what happens, no matter what trash compactor we end up in, no matter which child gives us away or whatever, we're together and we're a family. And so for Woody to break up that family by moving on, it just didn't make sense.
Did he move on?
He left. He leaves them at the end. Like, he says goodbye to everyone and goes off with Bo Peep to live this like, lost toy life. Yeah. You look so disappointed. I feel like I just killed your puppy.
No, it's okay. I don't think I would have seen it. But
I was very upset. And I immediately turned to Chris in the movie, because this was the first movie we ever took Elliot to. We took all the kids on 4th of July to see Toy Story. And you weren't there. You should have been there, because you were with all my kids the first time. But we knew we wanted to take them to the movies, and Elliot really wanted to see it. And even Charlotte enjoyed it.
Wow.
Yeah, she was real grumpy about it because she's seen Toy Story so many times, but she enjoyed it. But I turned to Chris at the end of the movie, and I was like, I did not like that. And Lucas, who was sitting next to me, Lucas turned to me and he's like, why, Mom? Why did Woody leave his friends?
Aww.
Because he's a sensitive soul.
Yes.
And that's how I felt too. I was like, why would Woody leave his friends? I didn't like the ending. I hope that they make more so they can, of course, correct this bullshit. And I know a lot of people are like, well, the movie's really ended with Andy, and like, whatever, that's fine. Sure. But there were a bunch of shorts that came after it where the toys were living with Bonnie, where they tackled a bunch of other stuff. Like there's a Christmas episode where, and again, guys, I have 3 children. I've seen these fucking things a dozen times. Dozens, hundreds of times. There's a Christmas episode that's very touching, in fact, where Bonnie and her cousin get distracted by video games and are neglecting the toys. And the resolution of that story is very touching. But they found other ways in these shorts to talk about things to do with the toys and the kids and like what growing up in this time period. I feel like there's so much you can do with that. And they didn't capitalize on that in this movie. And so I don't know if Toy Story maybe should live on maybe it'd be better off living on as a series on the new Disney Plus app. Maybe a feature is not in the cards for that thing, but I hope they continue with the franchise in some other fashion and that they can course correct this bullshit, because I felt like if it was me and I was one of those kids, like I would be crushed. Honestly, Elliot could not care less. Elliot loves Forky. All he wants is to have Forky in his life. He's got the babysitter gave him an early birthday present. It's like a Forky that you make yourself. Yes, there's a fucking spork in this movie, and they are selling it that you can make it yourself. It's actually, his is made out of paper because I guess they don't want kids stabbing their eyes out at night. No. But Elliot loves Forky. I think Lucas was honestly the only one who was like, wait a minute, guys.
This is bullshit.
That's honestly, I think, how Lucas felt at the end of the movie. Charlotte seemed to really like it. She liked Gabby, which was like one of the creepy toys. And Elliot loves Forky. So they were fine with it. But I was like, this is bullshit. I feel betrayed after all the emotional investment I put into this franchise for it to end this way. Just like I was upset. I was upset for days, which I know is irrational, but I really think the writing of these movies has been brilliant.
Yeah.
And I feel like they fucked it up, and I'm sad about it. Anyway, I don't want to be a downer, but that's the truth of the matter.
Yeah.
So Disney, get it right. Fix it.
Toy Story came out when I was like 9, I think.
So you were exactly the right age.
Yeah.
But yeah, can you believe that? Woody left. He left his family. I don't get it.
That's some shit right there.
And Bonnie didn't give him away. She was just like wanting to play with Jesse more. Good.
Yeah.
Let Jessie deserve some happiness. Yeah. Why can't Jessie have some happiness after what she went through?
Exactly.
Anyway. Shall we dig into today's topic?
Yes, please.
So I'm not exactly sure where our stopping point from the previous conversation is, but we're talking about Stranger Things 3, episodes 1 through 4. So somewhere around the middle of that discussion is where we're going to pop in. But let's do that.
Yes,
right?
Let's do it right
about
Max.
We didn't mean to barge in. We tried to knock, but maybe you didn't hear us over the storm.
I'm sorry, who is this dripping all over my living room right now? I'm sorry. Janet, Tom, this is my sister Maxine.
Yeah, I would like things to turn out better for Joyce. I want to see a happy ending for Joyce. I really do.
Do you think a happy ending for her involves Hopper, or do you think they'll just be friends?
Let me just say this. I love Hopper. Mm-hmm. He's a great character. I think he's a good dad in a lot of ways. I mean, if you compare him to... He has some anger issues. He's got some drinking issues. Hopper is... The funny thing is like I'm watching the show with Chris, and like every time Hopper shows up in a scene, Chris is like, that guy looks fucked up. Like he just always looks like he's exhausted and he's been having a night of hard drinking. Like Hopper is like, I think I really wish Joyce could have Bob back. Yes. That's what I want. Yes. I love Hopper, and I think Joyce would be good for him, but I'm not sure if he would be good for her. He would not be good for her. And I do think Hopper's doing a good job of raising 11 as best he can. And I want to see them both happy. But he did go on a huge bender at that restaurant and come home with like a jug of wine and he in his hand.
Beat the fuck out of that guy,
Yeah,
too.
That was fucked up. Hopper is... He's a bit fucked up. He's a bit of an anti-hero.
But we love him.
We love Hopper. And I honestly get delighted when I see how upset he is at Mike and his daughter making out.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. And then the delight on his face when he busts into her room and it's just her and Max and they're like, can we help you? He looks so happy.
Yeah.
And honestly, the first time we watched the show, so just to backtrack, you know, Hopper is not happy that Mike and Eleven are spending so much time together. And he goes to Joyce, who's like, you need to talk to them and set some boundaries. And he tries to do that. But then Mike is a real shit about it.
Real shit.
And so then what ends up happening is he's like, you know what, Mike, your mom called. You got to go home. And he puts him in the car and he does the I'm going to threaten you thing instead.
Yeah.
And at first, so then Mike has to lie to Eleven, and 11 knows she's lying, and then she ends up spending more time. Her and Max kind of team
Max
up.
is like, you should dump his ass.
Yeah, and so she dumps his ass.
I dump your ass.
I dump your ass.
In front of his friends and
Yeah, and then the scene where Hopper sees the two of them together is just, it's so funny when he sees that Max is over. And I was thinking to myself, you know, 11 should have a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Like, she should have a best bud.
Yes.
And what I love about the season so far is that Max and 11, it feels like a real friendship.
A real friendship.
It reminds me of that age when I was a girl and
Yeah.
like you're breaking up with your boyfriend and you're having a sleepover and the girls aren't talking to the boys and like it feels, I remember
Yeah.
those days and how all you would do is go back and forth sleeping at each other's houses. And so in a way I was like, you know, I don't like how Hopper went about it, but in a way he was right. Like, she was spending too much time just focused on Mike and like she wasn't, you know, developing relationships with other people.
Yeah.
And she's never had a normal childhood. And so it's good that, and now she's like going to the mall and they're getting makeovers and they're like having fun and they're reading comic books together, her and Max, and it's really cool. And they're going on adventures together, you know,
I will say
investigating.
that I do get annoyed when adults try to get into kids' relationships and try to like break people up and like that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
I
not
think you
cool.
should teach.
I mean, it
safe
depends.
Sex
I think there's a depend.
and not they're too like. But I'm just saying, like, I've known
They're
people
babies
who started
though. I
having
can't
sex
even.
at 13.
Oh, they're babies
And
though.
so,
They're
like,
babies. I
the-
can't.
You can't break them apart. You just
No.
have to teach them how to be safe.
That's true.
That's my
but
soapbox.
Mike was being a shit.
He was being a shit.
Also, I love that when Mike confronts her and is like, "Hey, I lied to you because of what Hopper said," and she's like, "Maybe Hopper's right." I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Like, I love that she doesn't get mad at Hopper. Like, maybe she
Yeah.
will later.
Yeah.
But in that moment, she was like, "Well, you know what? Maybe Hopper's right. Maybe I need to be hanging out with my own species."
Yes,
By the way, I
yes.
love that scene
Yes.
where she goes and uses her powers to spy on the boys.
Yes.
And they're just eating chips and farting.
Yes.
Like, that was just like, that is what would happen
Yes.
if you tried to spy on a group of boys that
Yes.
age. Like, all you would see is a bunch of farting. Anyway, it was really
How
funny.
can you see farts? Anyway, let's keep going.
Sometimes you can if they're stinky enough. I feel like they make a cloud. Okay. So basically, Billy becomes a creature, right?
Yes.
Or he's like got a creature inside him,
I'm
and I love
so,
seeing him
like-
wrestle with that creature.
Yeah, and I'm still kind of confused about like who's the doppelganger, and is the doppelganger out and about, or is he out and about? Or
I think they explained it. So do you remember last season where Will was like Will most of the time, but sometimes Will's mind was kind of taken over by the creature?
So is it one?
It's one
host?
body. I think
one body.
I think the confusion is that when Billy first gets infected, if you want to call it that, he has this sort of vision of the upside down where he
okay.
sees a bunch of people walking towards him
and he sees himself.
and he sees himself. And I think that was meant to help explain to us what's going on.
Symbolism. Okay.
But it's not reality. Like,
Okay.
Billy is Billy, and inside of him is this monster.
Okay,
And the
okay.
monster takes over when it needs to use him, which is what Will says. And
Yes.
he says that in episode 3 or 4.
Okay.
He says you're dormant and then you get activated when the monster needs you. And so Will now has this ability to feel when the monster is
On
around.
the back of his neck.
Yeah, so that he's got this like feeling he can sense the monster even though he doesn't have the monster inside of him anymore.
Yeah.
So Billy now is possessed, right? And then, or not possessed, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
and also he's got all the symptoms. Like he can't be in the sun. He doesn't like the heat. He's got to take ice baths.
Yeah.
And then he begins claiming victims in an almost serial killer like
Yeah.
way. And the first one is Heather, the lifeguard.
Yeah.
He kidnaps her and takes her. It feels very much like a serial killer
Yeah,
kind of thing.
it does.
And and he brings her to the monster, and the monster sucks her face. I assume we didn't see
Yeah.
it. Thank God. That's enough. Here's where so all that starts to happen, and then this is when during the course of 11, and I'm tying it into this thing we just talked about. 11 and Max are trying to spy on the boys,
Yeah.
and they basically come up with a spin the bottle game where they decide they have a list of people to spy on, and they spin a bottle, and wherever it lands, they're going to spy on that person. And so that's how 11 ends up spying on Billy.
Lands on Billy. Yep. And she sees a bathtub full of ice.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay,
Not yet.
okay.
That's the
oh,
second
yeah,
time.
Yeah, she sees Billy.
She sees Billy leaning over Heather, who he's kidnapped, and she can't see Heather, but she can see Billy, and then he turns around and he can see her, so the monster can see her.
Yes.
And that's when her and Max kind of embark on this like investigative adventure where they're trying to figure out like what's Billy up to, like what's going on. Like 11's like there's something wrong with him, and Max is basically like there's always been something wrong with him, which is true. And then they begin investigating, and the second vision is when she sees the bathtub.
Yeah.
So here and I know this is something I was thinking about when I watched the third episode. This is from the third episode.
Okay.
So the episodes, of course, Susie, Can You Hear Me? The second episode is, do you have those? I did write them down.
The mall rats.
The mall rats. That's when they break up with the boys and they go to the mall and they have the, God, we haven't even gotten to Dustin and Steve yet. We'll have to circle back to that. And then the third episode is, I can't.
The Case of the Missing Lifeguard.
The Case of the Missing Lifeguard. So episode 3, The Case of the Missing Lifeguard. That is when 11 goes in for a second vision to try to they go to so basically they go to Max's house, they invade Billy's space, which was terrifying. I thought he was going to come home at any second.
Yeah.
And they discover like ice bags in the tub where he was like soaking himself in ice, and they discover a bloody lifeguard whistle. And her lifeguard bag. Then they go to the lifeguard. They go to the pool and they try to say like, "Hey, where's Heather? We're concerned about her." And they're like, "She hasn't been in today." And then they see her picture on the wall of lifeguards. They take that and then they decide to go look for her, right? And so that's when Max goes in again. Now, this is when I really felt like there was a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street tie-in. First of all, the first thing she sees is the red door. And the red door is the door to Heather's house. But in A Nightmare on Elm Street, for any of those of you out there who are fans of that series, Nancy's house, Nancy, one of the main, who you might remember as the doctor from Nightmare on Elm Street 3, she was the psychologist who had already been through, she had the streak of gray.
Okay.
She is a teenager in the first movie who's being terrorized by Freddy Krueger, and she's kind of like the one who bests him. She's the one who defeats the monster in the first movie. Her house has a big red door and green shutters. And the big red door and the house with the green shutters shows up again and again and again through Nightmare on Elm Street in the series. And so the red door reminded me of that. Then I started to think about, the character who lives there, her name is Heather. The character Nancy was played by the actress Heather Langenkamp. So I feel like that's not a mistake. And then the last one is when 11 is going, so she goes to Heather's house, she sees the red door, she's looking for Heather, and she finds her in the bathtub soaking in ice. And Heather is like, "Please help me." And then Heather gets sucked under the tub into this like underneath, which looks very much like a scene in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 1 where Nancy is in the bathtub and falls asleep and Freddy sucks her, like pulls her under the bath. And you can see from this view, actually in Nightmare on Elm Street, you see a view from below her as she's like struggling to get back to the surface. But it's like this great big empty pool, basically like you see in the episode of Stranger Things, which I feel like is a nod to Nightmare on Elm Street as well from 1984.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I think the the Duffer Brothers are probably around your age, I would guess.
Well, they're referencing a lot of stuff here. I feel like they're referencing The Thing. I feel like they're referencing Nightmare on Elm Street. And every season they bring in a little bit of different stuff. Like last season, there was a lot of stuff with Ghostbusters. And I think Alien even is a little bit here. The first season was a lot of like Steven Spielberg-y kind of stuff, like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And you see a little bit of Close Encounters of the Third Kind in season 2 when Will is like seeing the monster outside of his house for the first time. But yeah, I'd noticed a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street. And Chris actually was like, I think as the kids get older, we're going to get closer and closer to that 80s slasher style film, which maybe we will. I mean, I have noticed it's been getting increasingly grosser and every season. So maybe we are trending towards a 80s slasher genre kind of thing at some point. Maybe there'll be some kind of crazed killer at Hawkins. I don't know. Maybe it'll be Hopper. He'll go on a bender and fucking murder everybody. I don't know. Gosh, where to go next? I feel like we talked a lot about the kids. We talked about Joyce a little bit. We should talk about Steve. What's going on with Steve? Because they got a whole other subplot there at the mall. Anyway, you want to dive into what's going on?
So they're at the mall.
At the well, I guess we got to go all the way back to Dustin and his radio contraption.
Dustin. He has been at camp for, is it 2 weeks, 2 months?
He was there for a month.
A month.
Because the show takes place in July.
Okay.
And so presumably Dustin's been away at camp since June. And it's like a science camp that he was at. Yeah.
And he says that he met someone. And
Susie.
I'm sorry, yes, Susie, and they are in a relationship, and they've like made out and stuff, and he has invented this radio device that like he can, it's like a giant thing that
it's like a ham radio.
Yeah, but
basically
he took
like a giant,
and he took his friends out to a field and built it and tried to contact her for hours, and she wouldn't get back to him. And they believed that he made her up, but what he did find,
which they were real dicks about. I was like, I mean, at least lie to your friend if you and be like, yeah, bro, I'm sure but we got to go home. It's late.
Yeah.
Like, God, they were like real mean about it.
So after everyone left, he got some Russian message, or at least message in Russian.
Yeah, it was a message in Russian. He'd like intercepted some kind of transmission,
and he
which
recorded it.
Yeah.
And then for the next few days, I don't know how long it was, but he and Steve and Robin tried to...
Is it Robin? Is that her name? You looked it up? Yeah, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. By the way, did you know that actress is the daughter of Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke?
She looks like them.
Yeah.
So they tried to translate this message, and it appears to be like kind of code.
Yeah, so they've got like a War Games Red Dawn thing kind of storyline kind of going on where I think, again, the showrunners and the writing team took what people I mean, I don't know how much they took to heart what people complain about season 2, but I don't see that happening in the first 4 episodes, so I assume that they took that to heart. Mm-hmm. And then they took the things that were working that people seem to like, and they really worked with that. Yeah. They were like, Billy is a character people are interested in. They want Eleven and Max to have a relationship, and they love Dustin and Steve together. So let's put them together and give them this fucking great female character as well to add to the mix. Like, let's add in somebody else to their team who is smart and funny. And I think they're really playing up that whole like Steve, because Steve's like been the ladies' man. He's like the ladies' man with the cool hair. And he's like not getting any punani with that sailor outfit on. Like none of the girls want anything to do with him. And so he's got this sort of, I don't want to call her goth because she's not goth, but she definitely has this like sort of like her character again. Like if you saw her in the street, she's like a gorgeous woman. But in the realm of this story, she's kind of like the weird chick who's like into weird stuff. Yeah. And like, so Steve doesn't see her as like a potential romantic connection because he doesn't go for weird chicks, but everybody knows they're going to end up together.
Yes, everyone knows. So she's the one who cracks the code. Yeah,
so she cracks the code. They've got this like, well, first of all, they translate it. She helps them translate it. They're working at the ice cream shop. And Lucas's sister Erica's showing up periodically trying to get as much free samples as possible. Dustin and Steve are trying to crack this Russian thing. They can't figure it out. Robin steps in and helps them crack it. And then once they get it, it's like basically a code. Mm-hmm. I don't even remember what they said. It's something like, the Silver Panther sleeps and might be nice.
Yellow flower days. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's like nonsense, right? And so she eventually figures out that those are kind of like coordinates in the mall and that there's a facility. Now, this is where the plot gets a little thin for me because there's like this facility on site at the mall where they're like sending all these boxes of stuff that is heavily guarded during the day. But apparently they just lock the door and walk away at night.
Yeah.
They're just like, you know what? Nothing bad happens at night.
No.
We're going to leave this incredibly important and rare substance.
People are out at night. Or
all
the bad people are in bed.
All the bad people are sleeping. We don't need to guard this place at night.
Yeah.
That was like a little bit of a stretch for me.
So they did also figure out that the message is in Russian, but it's from
It was coming from the mall.
It's coming from inside the house.
It's coming from inside the house. Yeah, Steve figures that out because the sound of the carousel thing. Or not carousel. It's one of those like little horses you put quarters in. So that kind of ties into the storyline again with Hopper and Joyce and the mayor, who we haven't even mentioned, Carrie Elways.
Right. Oh my gosh.
The shitty yuppie mayor. Who apparently is selling a bunch of land in Hawkins to this company that built the mall.
It's all goes back to the mall.
It goes all the way to the top. And so the mall, we're starting to get the sense that the mall is built on some sort of ground that is being used for, like, this obviously has to do with the Russian experiments we're seeing at the beginning. We're not really sure how it ties in, but I also got the sense that Hawkins itself, again, I'm going to say, is a portal to something. Hawkins is a place where, I mean, now they said it was the power plant, but Hawkins is sitting on it's almost like the gates to hell or some shit.
It's Yellowstone National Park. It's where the next super volcano will come from.
Oh.
I'm joking. Oh my God.
Didn't know that. Yeah, the Hawkins, the place seems to be what they want also, because they could have built this thing anywhere.
Yeah.
And they chose Hawkins, and they're buying up land. And Joyce, oh man, we forgot to talk about the magnets.
The magnets.
The fucking magnets.
The magnets that become demagnetized.
Yeah.
And she breaks out like...
And they're losing power randomly in town.
Yeah. So she tries to look up the science, and then she contacts the high school, not high school,
yes.
high school?
He was their Scott Clark, the science teacher, Mr. Clark, who is played by an Atlanta actor as well. Yeah, and he explains to her that sometimes magnets can become demagnetized by like an electrical field. Mm-hmm. And so that's what sets her and Hopper on this journey to go back to Hawkins' lab, which is now closed down. Joyce relives the big gory moment of like really had to show it to us again.
Yeah.
I was like, can we abridge this? Yes. Like, do I need to watch this again? Like I'm being re-traumatized by Bob's death. And then there's so many characters on this show. Yeah. There's Motorcycle Guy. I don't even know what he's about. Motorcycle Guy, the guy that beats up Hopper at the Hawkins lab.
Yes.
They go to Hawkins lab. Nope. It seems like there's nobody there, but there is somebody there. There's Motorcycle Guy. There's cameras going. So obviously someone is still monitoring the lab. And Motorcycle Guy beats the shit out of Hopper. He really should go to a doctor. Surely there's got to be some internal bleeding there.
He needs to go to
a physician
and a psychiatrist.
Yeah, and maybe like a rehab.
Yeah.
And maybe he just needs to do like a resort package.
Yes. Agreed.
And then so that leads them back to the mayor who's been trying to shut down because the mall, and this was I think interesting. The mall is taking jobs away from like downtown Hawkins where like all these stores are closing. Here's the funny thing though. So in the 80s, malls were taking away business from mom and pop stores, right? Yeah. And people were losing their stores. Mm-hmm. I remember growing up in Marietta, because that's where I'm from, Marietta. Mm-hmm. The Square in Marietta had like some antique shops and like a coffee shop, but not a whole lot. Like the Strand Theater had gone to shit. There were so many like empty buildings. that downtown square was like nobody really hung out there, you know, like except for some shady characters. And all these little downtown squares have been transformed into these, like, that's where everybody goes. Like, people, they're going to the farmer's market and they're getting their hipster tiny sandwiches and, like, their coffee shops. And so now that malls, nobody wants the mall because everybody can get the shit they can get at the mall on Amazon. These small downtown squares have now been revitalized or revamped or gentrified, in fact, if you want to say it plainly. But
in the 50s, I had seen some there was actually an episode of Adam Rune's Everything About Malls. And he was like, the person in the 50s who conceptualized the mall thought of it as an outdoor square with like live works, like spaces and all these shops and all these like places to like have events and stuff. But he saw it as like what we see now as like the outdoor space with like places to work, places to live, places to
which
shop.
is like Pond City Market basically.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway.
But so in this time frame in the 80s, the mall is taking away, like all the little stores are shutting down.
Yeah.
People are protesting.
And
more
Joyce
Atlanta
has a
actors in the
store.
protest scene. Huh?
Joyce has a store.
Well, she doesn't own the store. She works at the store.
Okay.
She's an employee at the store and never gets any business. She needs to go work at the mall.
Yeah.
I think I would like to see Joyce running the Jazzercise class.
Yes.
I think I would like to see a happy ending where Joyce is making people feel good and encouraging them as the powerful ass bitch that she is.
That was a hilarious joke, by the way, where they would like
Jazzercise
following the guy who had like a dark bag and like a dark
Right.
outfit, dark coat, and like he ended up being like the person who ran the Jazzercise.
Yeah,
class.
Dustin and Steve are trying to find out where the bad Russians are, and
Yeah.
they see a guy walking around with a duffel bag, and he's like, the guy, he like shows up to the Jazzercise place, and he's like, I've just got one question for you. Who's ready to Jazzercise?
Yeah. He like
And
rips
then-
off his black coat and like has like a colorful.
He's got like
No.
a colorful tank, tank, and some palazzo pants on. Is Jazzercise one of the whitest things to ever happen?
Yes.
I just
Yes.
have to wonder. They probably didn't do this when you were in school. But when I was in school, in gym, in like the 5th grade, they separated the boys and girls
Okay.
every year. It wasn't just 5th grade. They did this a couple of years. And the girls did Jazzercise for a week.
Okay.
And the boys did, I don't know what the fuck. I don't know, football, basketball, something cool. They did something else while we did Jazzercise for a week.
Okay.
And I'm just glad that kind of misogyny is behind us, because Jazzercise is for everyone.
It is. It is. You're right. What was that joke in I Feel Pretty where Rory Scovel works out at a Zumba?
Zumba.
He does Zumba.
I guess
I'm
Zumba
sorry.
is like the Jazzercise of our
Of
day,
today.
right?
Yeah, it is.
Is Zumba cool anymore though?
I don't know.
Anyway, so the mayor's shutting down the protests on the mall, right? And then we discover that he's kind of like in the pocket of whoever. We don't really know who it is, but somebody's buying up
he
all this
doesn't
land.
know.
And he doesn't even know, but he says they're bad people.
Yeah.
Hopper beats the shit out of him, almost cuts his finger off.
Yeah. Ooh.
And then they go to, I don't remember the mayor's name, but they go to his house and they find like all these deeds and they're like locked away in like a safe. And so now they're trying to go. Now, last we left Hopper and Joyce, they were going from place to place with these deeds, looking into seeing what reason that these landed bought up. They're like, somewhere there's a place where this magnet killing machine exists. I'm not even sure what to call it. The magnet killer.
What
yeah.
do you think? Do you think the Magnet Killer is that giant
Yeah.
thing that
I think it's the
reminded you of
machine.
the duck guy?
Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck.
Yeah. I think it's that machine that we saw at the
Yeah.
beginning. Yeah.
Do you think it's in Hawkins, or do you think it's in Russia still?
Oh no, I think it's in Hawkins. That's why all the magnets have stopped working. Yeah, they've gone to Hawkins because they probably know that Hawkins is located directly on the edge of Satan's asshole.
Okay.
Don't you think?
Yes.
Because if Hawkins, surely they would know that this event had occurred, because it seems like they were trying to do this in the time period at which Will was and the Upside Down and all this was happening, surely that information would have gotten out somehow via Russian spies, I assume. The funny thing is there were jokes in season 2 about there being Russian spies.
There were.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
But with that reporter guy or the conspiracy theorist guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was there's any truth to that, but maybe they found out what was going on in Hawkins, and that's why they moved operations to there, because this place is amenable to the elasticity of the membrane that separates our universes or whatever.
Okay, you're using too big of words. Membrane, elasticity.
Let's just take a moment to honor and respect Billy's mullet.
Oh my God. Hail to the mullet.
We did not talk. We have not even scratched the surface with Nancy or Jonathan. But they work at a paper.
They do.
She's surrounded by sexist assholes.
I mean, but they're almost like cartoonish, if not being completely
That's the way it was, though. That's the way it would have been at a place like that. You can't get away with that anymore. But yeah, like they're like. But I do think women still find themselves in places where it's a male-dominated environment and they're treated like secretaries. Like, I would like to point out that they're both interns, but Jonathan gets to do photo stuff, and
he's not
all Nancy
harassed.
does is get fucking lunch.
Yeah.
Like, they don't assign her. She's not even transcribing interviews or anything.
Yeah.
Like, she's a secretary, basically, because that's all they think a woman can do at the paper. And I think it's very realistic.
Yeah.
But she ends up, an old woman calls in, says there's something fucked up going on with the rats. She goes over. I'm running through this because we've got we still need to get through the 4th episode, which I think I want to spend more time on.
Okay.
You know, the sauna test.
Oh, yeah.
We got to talk about the sauna test. So, Nancy goes over to investigate this claim this woman has about rats, and she takes Jonathan with her. And basically, and some of the more disturbing moments, I think, in the show, you know, there's all these like empty fertilizer things. There's this like rabid rat, which ends up it explodes and turns into goo, escapes from its cage. No, they don't see. I thought it was going to blow up all over Jonathan. I was worried he was going to turn into a creature.
Yeah.
By the way, let's take a moment to ponder when Jonathan is going. Is that a wig that he's wearing? Is that his hair? What I want for Jonathan is to have one season where he has good hair. Is this part of a character trait?
I don't know, but I've looked up the actor and like his.
Nancy has fabulous hair.
Yes, but like I've looked
the
at the
Byer
actor,
boys.
And the actor doesn't have good hair.
Is Joyce cutting their hair?
I don't know.
The Byer boys need some help. They need to go to Great Clips or
Yeah.
something.
Did that exist back then?
Oh yeah, in the 80s. Come on, everybody got their hair cut at Great Clips. Anyway, so the rat explodes. I don't remember her name, but it's a nice old lady. She's like in her 80s and she's really sweet, and you know she's done for. Like, you know that woman's gonna explode into a pile of goo at some point. There's no way that 80-year-old woman is gonna survive this show.
No.
But she ends up getting possessed by the monster.
Yeah.
And when they go back to check on her, she's like eating the fertilizer.
Yeah.
It's very scary.
Very scary.
I don't know why, but old people doing weird stuff is scary.
It is scary.
It's the whole thing. The way it was framed, it was very like unnerving. It reminded me a lot of The Exorcist 3. There's like an old woman who gets possessed in Exorcist 3, and there's like this famous shot of her like you see a character, they hear something's going on, they go to open the door to her room, and you just see her sort of in the background of the shot crawling across the ceiling. It's very scary. And that scene of her eating the fertilizer, like the shock of it reminded me a bit of that scene as well.
Oh, wow.
So I feel like a lot, and I don't know if they're not the same, but I feel like it had the same tone to it. And so I don't know if that was intentional, but anyway. Should we talk about the sauna test?
Yes. I love that episode. That
Awesome.
was like a great
good.
end of Act 1.
It felt like an end of Act 1 to me too. So basically, Will comes to terms with the fact that the monster is back.
Yeah.
He tells his friends. They call up Max and 11, who don't want anything to do with them, but they convince them to meet with them. and they sort of discuss what's going on. 11 is sharing the information she has, which is that something's going on with Billy. These are these visions that she's seen. She's believes something is going on with Heather and her, and something's going on that's not right. And they decide to go spy on Billy at the pool.
Yeah.
And then they come up with a plan. And the plan is they're going to wait until closing time at the pool. They're going to lure Billy into the sauna, turn it up to 250 degrees or something. And they're going to wait for the monster to come out. Mm-hmm. And they have this shot of Billy like sitting up on the lifeguard stand wearing like 1,000 damn towels and like drinking a Slurpee. And that's what they do. And this gives them a little time to sort out some of the drama between the characters where like Mike's trying to apologize to 11. 11 doesn't want anything to do with it. But the real crown jewel of the episode is when they finally get Billy into, and they trick him in there by like using the walkie-talkie.
Yes.
And strapping it to a dummy and putting it in the sauna. Billy is not very smart, apparently. No. So I feel like if I saw a dummy, I mean, he knows that's the sauna, right? Like he works at the pool. Anyway, they lure him in there, they shut the door, and then they start cranking up the heat.
Mm-hmm. And he freaks out and yells at them, and it's very scary.
It was very scary.
He finally breaks the window.
But before that happens, they have this really awesome scene between him and Max, where you can tell that Max really cares about him. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how much of it is real and how much of it isn't. Maybe there's like a mixture, but this is like the moment where you get a little sympathy. I feel like I sympathized with Billy periodically throughout this process of him like, yeah, he's not a good guy. We know that.
But he's not
a fucking
evil
serial killer.
Yeah.
You know? And he's being made to do all these things. And
maybe
this is the
will
moment.
Be the thing that will make him be less bad in the end. Do you think? Once the monster leaves him, he'll be like, man, I need to change my ways.
Like, I am going to start going to church. I'm going to start volunteering and I am going to adopt a puppy from a shelter.
Maybe I just won't beat people up anymore. I don't know. Maybe I just want to hook up with moms anymore.
I mean, isn't he doing a service to these moms, these suburban moms? Isn't this a public service he's offering? But he breaks down and is sobbing and says, Max, I did all these bad things and I didn't want to do it. I tried to stop it, but I couldn't stop it. And she's like crying at the window. It's really a really beautiful scene.
Yeah.
It's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's not my fault, Max. I promise you, it's not my fault.
What's not your fault, Billy?
I've done things, Max, really bad things. I didn't mean to. He made me do it.
Who made you do it?
Kind of always like a shadow.
And then we see that he's actually grabbing a shard because the shard of the wall comes loose when 11 uses her mind powers to shove him in there. And he grabs that and like Will starts to feel the monster. And he's like, Max, get away from the window. And that's when Billy breaks the window and starts screaming at them. And he's like, his like veins are like, he's like turning into the monster. And at first I didn't really understand what was going on because at the same time Nancy's at the hospital with the old lady who's now been hospitalized. And I remember now what it is that because Billy is in the sauna and he's heating up. Do you remember in season 2 when they start burning down the cave and Will starts freaking out because he can feel the burning?
Yeah.
They're all linked the way that Will was linked with the monster before. So when Billy's body is heating up and he's like going crazy, that's why we see the old woman doing the same thing because they are all linked. Just like Will was in the last season. That's what I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Which may be something that comes to their advantage later. They're all linked. So it's dangerous in the sense that they have a hive mind, but it also means that they can, like, if you get one, maybe you can get them all. Maybe is Billy the head now? Mm-hmm. Is Billy the head of the monster? If they kill the monster that's in the warehouse, does that free everybody else? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although even when they were shutting the gate, they still had to get kind of exorcise that demon out of Will's body. So I'm not really sure how that's going to get resolved.
Yeah.
But anyway, Billy, we haven't really seen 11 use her powers yet. But when Billy comes out, he's like, he immediately recognizes 11 and they have this like confrontation and he tries to choke her. It was very violent. Like this is like, she looks like she's being fucking choked. It's really hard to watch a grown man choke a child.
Yeah.
But what ends up happening is Mike hits him over the head with a pole, and then he goes after Mike, and then 11 uses her powers to like throw him out of the building, basically.
Yeah.
Like she lifts him up and like throws him out. She throws him through a brick wall.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the resolution
runs
of that.
away.
Yeah.
And then he runs back to the warehouse where he has...
Well, wait, before we get there, because this is something Chris and I discussed when you weren't there, when we watched it the second time, is that Chris was like, why didn't she just kill him right there? And she could have.
But she would be killing the guy too.
Right. I think the reason that she didn't kill Billy is because he's Max's brother. Like if her and Max didn't have that relationship, because she killed, Catherine Dyer's character in the first season, she brain melted all of those Hawkins lab guys. She snapped people's necks. Like 11 could have killed him easily.
Yeah.
But she didn't, I think, because it's Max's brother.
But also because he's crucial to the story and the writers did not want to kill him off.
Sure. Obviously, narratively, that's the truth. But I think it pans out. Because Max, I think that we have to see that scene of Max and Billy connecting as brother and sister. And I think 11 probably was ready to kill him and had to think. I feel like this was intentional. Yeah. 11 could have killed him and didn't because that she would be killing Max's brother.
Yeah.
Stepbrother. Anyway, so that kind of gets us to the end of episode 4.
Well, he runs back to the
warehouse. You're right. You wrap it up. This is a great scene too.
And we see an entire warehouse full of Hawkins residents who have been turned.
Right. So he's there with Heather and he's like, she's really strong. She could have killed me. And she's like, she could have killed you, just you, but not us.
Not us, yeah.
And I did spy, I spied Peter, who's a local Atlanta comic who we know as one of the Hawkins residents, but it's basically, it looks a lot like the cold storage at Westworld.
Westworld, yeah.
Where everybody's just waiting to be activated.
Yeah.
And so I assume going into the next episode, we're going to really see that come into play. And I don't know how. I'm excited about it.
Me too.
So any thoughts going into the next 4 episodes?
I can't wait. I mean, I hear it's good.
What do you think's going to happen?
Oh, man. I mean, I think we've talked a little bit about what we think might happen.
Well, I definitely think there's going to be a confrontation at the mall.
Yes. I think that... Do you think that Joyce and Hopper will ever be a thing? Or do you think that's just...
I don't know. I
honestly don't know about that one.
I think that maybe Endgame, yes. But we know there's a season 4. So I don't know that they're going to get them together yet.
I think that Steve and Robin are going to get together this season.
Yes. Oh, we didn't even talk about Erica. We don't need to backtrack, but we also left off with them having broken in with this great scene with Erica. They offer her free ice cream for life in a utterly foolish, like she could have gotten lost in those vents. She crawls through the vents and then and they all end up, and we didn't even talk about this, but those boxes are filled with some kind of liquid that looks like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Secret of the Ooze liquid.
Yeah.
And then they end up in this elevator going down. So who knows? What do you think is under there?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Do you think it's?
I think it's another
machine?
lab. No, I think it's the lab. Yeah, I think the machine might be down there, but definitely there's a lab down there for sure. Yeah. But what are they doing with all that green stuff?
That green stuff is the stuff that they feed the monster.
do they know about the monster? Do the Russians know about the monster?
What else could they want to be in the Upside Down for?
I don't think they know about the monster. I
Do you
think
think
they're just
just,
trying
like,
to. They just are trying to have this
Discover,
powerful.
explore.
Yes, it's for power, I think, but I think
Okay.
that they're trying to cross over into another dimension for reasons of personal conquest or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't think they know about
The monster.
the monster.
How could they miss that crucial detail?
Well, I mean, the portal is closed,
Hmm.
and I don't know how much information they have, but I definitely think that they are not working in cahoots with the monster. In any case,
Yeah, no.
I don't know what that green stuff is for. I have
I
no
don't
idea.
It
Or maybe
reminds me of-
fuel to power the machine. Maybe.
Possibly. It's very bright green though.
Yeah, it definitely
Very
has a
bright green.
Ninja
Yeah.
Turtle thing going on.
I think that Jonathan and Nancy are going to solve the case.
They're going to run the paper. I'm just kidding.
I think they're done. I think they're done with the
Yeah.
paper. I think they're going to solve the case.
I expect she'll take her story to our friend from season 2 who helped them get their story out about Barb and Hawkins Lab.
I don't remember
The conspiracy theorist guy. Remember, they go and they send all the information to the papers. They never really, that storyline never panned out, but I assume we're going to see him again.
that. Okay.
I think we'll see him again. We saw him in the recap, so
I think it would be so fun if I already said this before, but if Dustin's girlfriend ends up being the one to like save the day, like show up at the end and like she's
Yeah.
real.
oh, that would be fun. And she's a fucking ninja.
Yeah.
And she just like goes to town on that monster.
Yeah.
Do you think Billy will survive this season? Or will he die
Goddamn
heroically?
better.
It would be a crime against mullets,
Yes.
against hot mullets everywhere if Billy did not
No, there's only
survive.
one hot mullet and it's on his head.
There's only the one. Literally only the one.
And like if you see a picture of the actor without the mullet, you're just like, who? I don't know. Like, okay,
He's
just
still
like a guy.
hot. Have you seen his audition tape?
No.
We should watch it later.
Okay.
It is a masterclass in like, wow, that guy, like, he went for it.
So hot.
Okay, so I guess that is going to wrap it up for
Yes.
this episode. And this will be the end of episode 2, our second episode on Stranger Things.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the stopping point of episode 1 will be, but this will be episode 2. When we see you again, we will be talking about episodes when we see you again. You can't see
I was about to
us
say when we see you.
when you hear us again.
When you hear us
or
again.
maybe you will hear me, but I will see you and you won't see me. I'll be standing over your bed
Oh my god.
at night, just watching you sleep. Next time we meet, we'll be talking about the next 4 episodes. So
Yes.
5, 6, 7,
7,
8.
8.
That's how it goes, right?
11.
Typically, they should have 11 episodes, don't you think?
Yes.
Before we get there, though, I do want to plug a couple of things.
Okay.
First of all,
Well, we already talked about how we finished our last film, but you guys won't be able to see that for a while.
but you can keep up with us
Yes.
and what we're doing by following us, Critical Crop Top Media, which is our production company that produces this podcast, as well as we have some films and web series on Vimeo and YouTube. But you can follow us on social media at Critical Crop Top on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more information about that and funny things, memes, fun stuff, behind the scenes photos.
Georgia Made Pod.
Oh yeah, of course. Yes. And of course, you can follow this podcast on Instagram and Facebook at Georgia Made Podcast and on Twitter at Georgia Made Pod. And we'd love that.
We have such great memes, you guys.
We've got the finest memes.
Meme game is-
I
yeah.
am scouring the internet for the best in set memes, which I post every Friday.
Fucking hilarious.
Thank you. I work real hard on it.
I enjoy them.
So follow us on social media. Talk to us about what you thought about Stranger Things. What are your theories? What do you think? Well, you've probably already watched it, but retroactively, what would you like to talk about? Don't give us any spoilers.
Don't. If you say
Yet.
spoilers, we
Actually,
will.
well, by the time this episode comes out, I feel like we probably watched the other episodes.
That's
but
true.
maybe just discuss the one that we're talking about now,
Yeah.
which, you know.
Be
But anyway, what
respectful.
are your theories? What do you think's going to happen? What do you think about Billy's mullet? Is
What
it
do you think about it? We want to know.
do you dream about it at night like we do?
Do you want it on you?
Wow.
your
Anyway,
face?
join us join us next time on the show when we will be covering the next 4 episodes of Stranger Things. But till then, we'll meet again, won't we?
Yes, we will. Is that the end?
That's
Is that
the
the song
song.
at
That's
the
the
end?
song.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
It was